Okay, thank you very much for coming. We're going to start. Welcome to How to Get a Digital Studio's Attention. This is probably one of the best times in the last 4 or 5 years to be a content creator. There's an explosion going on now with opportunities for creators of short form and long form original video that is probably tenfold, I would say, than it's been in the last couple of years. And maybe one of the greatest things that's happening is that some very, very big, important companies like Yahoo, who we'll meet in a minute, and YouTube on page 1 of USA Today are spending a tremendous amount of money to fund new content. So we are here thanks to the IAWTV. There's a huge first ever award show tonight. We hope you're all going. It's the International Academy of Web Television. It's a celebration of really an incredible amount of hard work that has happened over the last, I would say, 5 years, going into 6 years, from a lot of people on this panel, to build the new community that is making some of the most disruptive media since the days before cable and the days before television. And so we're really excited that people have come out to support it. My name is Rob Barnett. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called MyDamnChannel. We're an entertainment studio and distributor of original content by great talent, and it's at MyDamnChannel.com, and I won't be one of those moderators who talks about his company constantly, so that's it. To my right, I want to introduce you to Anna Robertson. Anna is the head of Yahoo Studios, and our panelists will all tell you more about themselves in a minute. To her right, Blake Calhoun, who's a producer, director of Loud Pictures, and one of our content creators on the panel, representing how the hell to get people like those of us running distribution outlets to give him the kind of distribution money and fame and wonders that we know everybody that makes great content deserves. Like him, to his right, Woody Tondorf. Woody is the president of WETware Digital Media and a great content creator in his own right, and we'll hear more about Woody in a sec. And then Jeremy Azevedo, the director of entertainment programming for Machinima, one of the most successful companies in this game. So let's start with you, Anna, our lady on the panel, and to my right, so I'll pick on you maybe in the beginning. I'd start really just with 2 questions. The first thing I want to know is how you first broke into your coolest gig in media. What was the first cool gig you had? Tell us how you broke into that, and then tell us about your job and about the mission at Yahoo Studios.
Okay. Well, my first cool gig, I would say, in media is I was Diane Sawyer's producer for many years at ABC News.
That's
so
cool.
I was there for 10 years, and I traveled all over the world with her. I was at every major event, including the tsunami and 9/11 and Katrina and all of those things. So doing the 4 a.m. wake up and the, helping prep her for everything and anything. So I'd say that was pretty cool.
Let me just move the mic a little bit closer in.
And then Yahoo. So I head up Yahoo Studios, which includes our in-house productions. We have a very robust in-house studio, as well as managing our third-party productions. We have a lot of relationships with Hollywood partners like Electus and Reveille and Fishbowl and many, many others. We have about 30 shows in production right now, and we have 3 studios across the country in New York, Santa Monica, and in the Bay Area. And we currently have 9 of the top 10 shows online. So that's my job, is to kind of oversee all of original video production, news, finance, sports, lifestyles, entertainment, and beyond. So.
Thank you. Blake Calhoun, tell us about the first cool gig you got, how you got that cool gig, and then about your mission at Loud Pictures.
I'm still waiting to get my first cool gig. No, we produce mainly indie content. I've kind of made my name with a show called Pink from a few years back. But we, like a lot of creators, we create indie content, but then we also try to get studio gigs. And I've gotten 2. I did a show for Warner Brothers. That was a pretty cool gig a couple years back for the WB.com. And then my show Pink that I mentioned, we sold that to Generate, who just got acquired by Alloy. and they rep the show and rep my other projects. And so that's pretty much it.
Woody, tell us about your path.
I founded HBO's new media division in 2007 after my buddy and I made a parody of the OC that took place at Boston College called the BC. And at that point, YouTube had just started and people were just shocked that you could put video on the internet. I thought it was just for GIFs. And so we met with HBO and we made the whole thing for nothing. And they were impressed and saw a great return on investment there. And that was how we started. And then was able to parlay that into a very long-running web series, Elevator, that went for 4 years, 100,000 subscribers, over 200 episodes, and 48 million views over YouTube and Break. And then in 2009, I helped create Break.com's Creative Lab, which was fascinating. And yeah, so it's keeping the ball rolling, really. I mean, I do a dozen other things, but we have time issues.
And Jeremy, how did you get your start? What was the first thing that said to you, I'm not going to get one of those ditch digging jobs, but I'm getting into the show business?
I guess I started getting into online video when I was in college, when I realized I could make a film for about $200 that would be seen by about 20,000 more people than the kids that were spending thousands and thousands of dollars on their content. But my first real job in the industry was at MySpace, where I learned a lot about how community works. Then I moved on to managing a lot of video and editorial sites for Crave Online Network. And then now I am at Machinima, and I'm the director of entertainment programming, and we produce dozens and dozens of shows, some of which you guys may have seen, like Mortal Kombat Legacy, or Receiver, nominated for a couple awards tonight. But we also do a lot of kind of stuff with the directors, like Sanity Not Included and How to Annoy, which are kind of like small, independently produced, like very indie shows, some of which also do upwards of 50 million views in a year. So it's been pretty explosive. We're doing about 1 billion views a month in our network. That's with a B. Thank you. And it's been pretty exciting.
So, the hope of every content creator is to get the widest possible audience for the work. And Machinima does it as well as anyone out there. What are one or two of the secret special weapons that allow Machinima to grab such a large audience? What would one or two of the pieces of special sauce be over there?
Well, we have a very unique approach to our programming in that it's very community focused. A lot of the people that are creating the content for us or with us are people that we have kind of absorbed into our network, and what that basically entails is managing a network of a couple thousand directors that do really awesome videos on YouTube that could be anything from animation to live action to actual Machinima, which is basically just animated video game assets. But the core unifying principle of all these guys is that they see this community as something that is accessible, right? So it's very relatable and it's very aspirational. And so we kind of engender these guys to kind of create their own content and expose it to a large community that's made up of their peers, basically.
There are fewer studios left than there were in 06 and 07. I mean, the economy certainly didn't help. And a lot of people came out swinging in those early years that aren't around. So with fewer studios left, I guess I'll throw this to you, Blake. What are some of the best pieces of advice you can give somebody watching this video or here in the audience about how to crack it, how to get in, how to get that first contact that's going to allow somebody to pay attention to you? And then I want to dig deeper into some more of that. But what's the first swing at the bat like for you when you're trying to get the attention of a studio?
From a studio perspective, I mean, I know it's really common sense, but make the best show you possibly can. Don't put your best foot forward. And I would say once your show is out, what we did was we used a lot of super syndication initially to get more views, because even though a lot of views necessarily don't matter, it's more of an engaged audience that matters, in my opinion. It does still catch the eye of studios when you can say you have millions of views on your shows. whether that's across YouTube and Blip and all the different portals out there. When we first got in, there was Rever, which is pretty much gone now, and then we used MySpace a lot, which I haven't checked MySpace page in about 6 months or maybe a year. So it's interesting how it transforms. However, I would say make your best show, spend, production value too, and that's another thing, especially if you're going after a studio, because a lot of people, you can just throw something out there that might be funny, but production value is starting to matter, and then we're going to talk about that later. With YouTube now focusing more on professionally produced instead of user-generated content.
Woody, everybody wants backing, and it would be nice for everybody to get a big fat check. So when Blake spoke about, make your best show, what do you think about people pitching off the page or pitching with a dance routine versus you got to come in and pitch with video?
I think if you walk into MyDamnChannel or Yahoo or Machinima and you have something on a page, I think you're stupid. I think you walk in with video or you don't do anything. Frankly, I can tell you the greatest story in the world and I can give you a pretty great PowerPoint presentation, but you need to show someone what your vision is, that you can do this, that you have production capability. Otherwise, what are you doing it for? That's just the end all be all. Come in with video or don't come in at all.
And Anna, from Yahoo's perspective, how does that develop? I mean, Tom Hanks made a tremendously powerful announcement with you guys here at CES on Tuesday, so I'm going to ask you a lot more about that in a minute. But in general, when you're not the next president of the United States of showbiz, what are Yahoo's do's and don'ts for coming in and pitching?
I think he's right about video, absolutely. If you're going to pitch video, you should be pitching with video. We do that when we're even just trying to conceptualize a show or we're pitching advertisers, we're always pitching with video. So I would agree with that. I think there are some cases where that's not necessarily applicable, where if you're a huge star and you're a huge director that, we're very familiar with the work, there's certainly been instances where we haven't had video. But even with the Hanks program, we were able to see and feel what that was gonna be. So I think that's a big one. I just think doing your homework and knowing what the organization is interested in and pursuing. There's so many people that come in and actually haven't done their homework, which is just obvious, but I think, just doing a little bit of research as to what kinds of programs they are pursuing and they have going at the moment, and then, where they're heading is an important one. And any way you can get into that organization through somebody that and have a real connection instead of sort of cold calling. Yahoo's a big organization. We've got 13,000 people, 14,000 people there. There should be some way to find somebody that there. So I think anytime you have that validation of somebody in the organization, that helps a lot.
Yeah, I just want to put another point on that and add to it and say that big corporations can scare the hell out of an independent content creator, but having worked in them for most of my life, when you get inside, you realize that they are big corporations filled with small divisions that have 4 or 5 people in them sometimes making the decision, and it's key for everybody out there to figure out how to get to those people, and to not go generic and to not sort of send something to @company, but find the person. And that's what I've found to be one of the most radical things about Facebook, Twitter, and Tumblr is that the accessibility of senior executives is mind-blowing compared to what it was like 10 years ago, where you could never reach people. But now it's shocking sometimes how easy it is to just get to the right person and try and engage them. So I would inspire everybody to do that. We're only 48 hours past the announcement, so for people who haven't heard, can you tell everyone about what Yahoo has just announced with Tom Hanks? Because it's a huge step forward when somebody that awesome and that talented decides to enter into the community that's here being celebrated at CES. So tell us just a little more about what was just announced.
Absolutely, yeah. For anybody who hasn't heard, we're partnering up with Tom Hanks on his first digital animated series called Electric City. It's a really exciting opportunity for us to connect with one of the premier storytellers in general, and take him into the digital platform. So I think it truly is one of the biggest moves that's happening right now in the digital storytelling space. It's a very different, very edgy, very smart series. It's unlike anything that's been seen or done online. It's really pretty groundbreaking and interesting. And it's a series of 4 to 6 minute episodes about a futuristic city in which electricity is scarce. And there's a lot of backstory, but Tom Hanks voices the lead character, and he wrote a lot of it and directed it, and has brought in a lot of his friends, and Jean Triplehorn's a part of it, Jennifer Goodwin, lots of other celebrities are a part of it. So it's just really exciting. I think we had an event on Monday night, which was great, in which he sat down with Ross Levinson and talked a little bit about why digital and why he's picked Yahoo. And it's really exciting to see the kind of opportunity that he sees online for storytelling, because he's been at the forefront of movies and miniseries and lots of other platforms, and he talked about how he sees digital as just an opportunity to really expand in so many different directions. So we couldn't be more pleased to partner with such a huge star in his first digital foray. So it'll be exciting.
Woody, a question to you about talent. What are some of the tricks of the trade that you've found along the way? I mean, you work in a very collaborative way, and it's one of the hallmarks, I think, of this industry, that there were a lot of gangs here at the IAWTV tonight, and maybe someday, we'll all get close, or maybe closer to the realm of Mr. Hanks, but we start out as rebel gangs, and you seem to be really great at that. So what are some of your philosophies about how to pick a core group, and what kinds of talent do you think work best in the web world?
What sorts of could you clarify that last point?
Sourcing talent, finding talent, directing talent,
Gotcha.
breaking new talent is a big part of what this community does, and I'm curious, how you go about doing that.
Well, a lot of
I didn't sleep either. I'm sorry.
A lot of it comes out of building partnerships with people who you know and respect. I mean, there's the running joke that we have right now is I acted in a series called Video Game Reunion that's up for Best Comedy Series and Best Wardrobe Design for the IAWTV. But we call ourselves the 8-Bit Mafia because we just had such an incredible time and we've just really bonded. So when it comes to talent, if you want to make your best show possible, you work with the people you know, just like Judd Apatow only works with like the same 4 people. And that's really annoying, but you know what performance you're going to get out of someone. So for those of you who don't know who this is, I work almost exclusively with this actor Craig Frank because he's fantastic and great, and I always know what I'm going to get out of him. So I use the same core group of actors, but also if I'm going to be for instance, if I'm going to be pitching MyDamnChannel on something, I know that they are alt comic heaven. And I happen to have worked with a terrific comedian named Kate Micucci on Elevator. She's part of a group called Garfunkel and Oates. She's been in Scrubs and all these things. But they're terrific, and they're exactly in the MyDamnChannel wheelhouse. So I'll bring her in and say, would you want to be a part of this thing? I have this part. I think this could really work. We'll find some sort of partnership, and that really enables me to be in a better bargaining position when I walk into the room and I go, I have someone who's exactly in your universe. And that just kind of builds up your potential to get a show, at least get a second meeting out of it.
Jeremy, I sometimes feel like in the last year or so, the 3 letters UGC has taken a bad rap, It's taken a bad rap because a lot of the majors have come along and grabbed some big talent, which is awesome, and it's getting, this kind of attention that we all wanted. But I also feel like there's not a single person here who would be here today if it wasn't for UGC content. So in 2012, how do you kind of, look at the life cycle of UGC versus professional, and is there a bad rap? What's the future for UGC?
I think there's actually very little difference at this point between UGC and professionally produced content. And that's what's so great about this space right now, is that the barrier that might have existed before that would stop anybody in this room or anybody watching from going and just making their own series is virtually non-existent. We have guys that have gone in the last couple of years from, you know, having 200 or 700 or 7,000 subscribers to having 2, 3, 400,000, 1 million subscribers just by making good content. And the tools that we have access to, the cameras, the software, the computers, the people that are willing to work, you know, again, with the community aspect, people are just making really, really, really good content that is blurring the line, right? Some people would call, you know, Video Game Reunion UGC. I don't know that it really is if you look at the quality of it. And it's like you said before, you know, it's almost foolish to come in and try to pitch something with a script when it's so easy to get people together and just go shoot something. So now that we have that open door policy, I don't know, UGC doesn't seem like a bad word to me anymore. I mean, there's always going to be the stuff that is not that great, but you have to enable people to try new things and kind of learn and grow as they experiment with content.
Well, and also, sorry if I can just add, you'll also find on YouTube particularly that the bar gets lower because, you know, excellent content creators like Machinima partner Corridor Digital do a lot of behind the scenes of like, how did we blow up this tank? Or how do you make bullet effects look incredibly real? And they are putting this information out there where, you know, a year ago people go, what the hell is wrong with you? But they're helping people figure that out. I know I'm pitching a series now called Woody and Craig Zombie Hunters, and we were like, well, how do we get that blood effect to look great? And I just pulled up a Corridor Digital video and I said, look, here's exactly how they did it. They used After Effects, they tinged the smoke effect red, and that was it. And now all of a sudden, you know, we're After Effects gurus.
And to your point earlier, these people are accessible, right? You could literally tweet them and just ask them, how did you do that? And sometimes it's as simple as taking somebody that's really great at special effects or directing and cinematography, and then taking another guy that's really great at writing but is kind of crap at special effects, and saying, hey, why don't you guys work together on something?
That's exactly right. And honestly, in my opinion, not enough people do that. Especially, I mean, you'll have content creators who are absolutely fantastic, but they don't think to team up with people who are possibly better at writing than they are.
Which is something that content creators should be mindful. Don't be too precious about your content. If somebody that has produced several successful shows, like one of these guys here, tells you, hey, maybe you should work with this guy and like fill in this, you know, this missing link right here, maybe you should at least try it out. Right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Blake, let's assume that you've already succeeded at the point of this panel, which is called How to Get a Studio's Attention. So you've got their attention, but how do you decide what studio and what distributor is best for you as a content creator? What are the things that you're looking for? Because as a studio person, as a distributor, I always want to know, what's the intention of a content creator? Are you coming in for marketing, or you coming in for, you know, a foot in the door? Are you coming in for the big check? What are some of the things that you look for in making sure you've got the right partner?
Are there big checks at MyDamnChannel? I haven't found the big checks yet. No, I would say know who you're pitching to. I mean, that's an obvious statement, but if you're pitching to MyDamnChannel, they're mainly comedy traditionally. Or I would say Yahoo, at least before the Tom Hanks stuff, they haven't been narrative. It's more hosted shows and newsy shows. So that would be one thing. But ultimately, it's interesting. I know this panel is about studio, but to me, what's so interesting about the space we work in is how independent guys. I mean, because again, most of my work, and I think most of Woody's work is pretty indie. How we can have make a show, because when I did Pink back in 2007, we made it from Dallas for a few dollars and uploaded it and got the attention of Warner Brothers. And so to me, that's almost the more exciting thing about getting it to a studio, that whoever will look at it then is great. Now, there's not as many around that were around back in 2007, 2008, but just creating those shows as an independent and then having the opportunity, no matter what the genre or the content, to me, that's one of the most exciting things, just the freedom it gives you. And then one other thing, while I love Tom Hanks and all the celebrities YouTube has lined up, I think to bring press to the web, because otherwise we don't get it. So far, and what I've seen, a celebrity really doesn't make a difference whether the show is successful on the web yet. So it's an interesting contrast there.
Anna, what are the other shows that you can tell us about, certainly if they've been announced, that are in development, because Yahoo's definitely making a new push. So tell us a little bit more about the direction and some of the other new projects or categories that you might move into in the year ahead.
Well, we have focused mostly on, sort of nonfiction type of content, documentary and news and sports and lifestyles and entertainment, and we'll continue to be doing that. But the Hank series is our first scripted series, so that's kind of a new thing for us. We just launched late last year, a slate of programs for women. So we launched 8 programs that were specifically, targeted towards a female demographic, and that included a cooking show with Fabio Viviani and lots of different shows that included named talent and non-named talent. We worked with a lot of production partners. We're doing a comedy slate that's coming up in early this year, and we're kicking that off with a live comedy event with Bill Maher in Silicon Valley, so that should be a lot of fun, and also very different because he's really only done HBO type of experiences where it's a paid experience. So this is a free live comedy event with Bill Maher, and then we'll roll out several other shows, and a lot of those actually are sketch comedy shows, more scripted kind of series in the comedy space. So I think that'll be an exciting opportunity for us. And then we're continuing to look for really big projects like the Hanks program. So we'll be doing a few more of those. And I think you're right. A lot of our most successful content is just the bread and butter type of stuff that maybe doesn't have a celebrity attached. That's just really great information or a really fun show or something that people really want to know and watch. But the piece that's so great is that the celebrities are kind of validating the space so much across YouTube and Yahoo and all the different folks that are getting into this game. So I think there'll be a lot more to come.
I thought Tom Hanks' quote, though, about how studio marketing people, this is like foreign to them. That's one reason he brought it to you guys, because he knows they don't have the same vision of what the web is.
Even people like Fabio Viviani has talked about how he was, a lot of the cooking channels asked him to do a show, and they wanted him to fit into their cookie cutter of what a show is, and we said, no, we love you, we just want you to be you, because you're fun and you're sexy and you're crazy, and we just want you to be who you are. So I think that's the great thing about digital, is giving these guys freedom that they might not have from a studio or a cable network or somewhere else.
It's always refreshing to see traditional content creators like a Tom Hanks really kind of embrace the space. Like, I'm going to be fascinated to see how Shaquille O'Neal or other traditional media people. Did I really just put Shaquille O'Neal as a traditional person? I saw Shazam. It was amazing. But it's great to see how they can either embrace the space or, you can tell when someone pitched a pilot, they didn't take it, and they went, well, fine, I'll make a web series. Like, there's a series, H+, which is very clear. I forget one of the guys who directed X-Men. I forget.
Bryan Singer.
Yes. He clearly pitched this thing to a studio. They said, we don't have $80 million. We'll give you $6. And he went, okay, I'll take it to the web. And you can kind of see, it's great. It looks amazing, don't get me wrong, but it'll be fascinating to see if they can actually embrace all the things, the advantages that the web gives you a chance to tell a more complete story, to really engage with an audience, to make people feel like they're there. Because, you can buy views, or you can have 20 million views on your first episode, but if you are not engaging your audience, if you are not finding a way to make people feel like they're part of the process, then you're not doing your job.
Yeah, it's fun to see some of these kind of traditional folks really get excited about the web because they're just new to it, Totally. Like Morgan Spurlock is doing a show with us called The Failure Club, which we launched late last year, and it's perfect for the web. It just really works for the web better than a TV series, because it's really about, kind of following people through them trying to face failure and face the things that they're worried about. So it's really following along, and you get that community environment with the web. And so it's fun to see Morgan, he's really jazzed about this thing, and he's really excited that he has that community around him. And same thing with Hanks and Fabio, and so it's a whole.
It sort of takes a guy like Morgan Spurlock, though, that is the kind of person that would engage with the audience. Yep. That totally works, but occasionally you get a celebrity that is just kind of doing it for, just to do it.
To have that in their portfolio.
And they're not accessible at all. right? And that I don't think really cuts the mustard when you're talking about the internet, because this is a whole group of consumers that are active consumers. They're no longer passive consumers like you would have watching television. They want to comment, and they want to get a comment back.
Yeah,
You know,
I think
they
you have to
wanna
have
be able
somebody
to-
that's authentic, you
Right.
know? I mean, that's like we were talking
Authenticity
about
is
what
so
kind of
important.
talent works. It's like if you're a celebrity and you have somebody else tweeting for you and you're not really yourself, and I mean, people sniff that out so easily.
Really
Absolutely.
obvious.
So I think just somebody that's authentic and relatable, which I think does fit with Hanks and Spurlock, and the kind of people that we're trying to align with are really natural for the web.
Well, Morgan Spurlock just exploded across. I mean, there was a Failure Club. I write and produce a show for Hulu called The Morning After. It's a TV recap show, but we had Morgan Spurlock in the studio because he was doing A Day in the Life. And I guess at some point he just woke up and he went, okay, I want to make 8 web series or something like that. And he just threw them out there, and of course, but it's the exact right approach for him. And it might be, I mean, it's safe to say that we're kind of indie with our content production, but Morgan Spurlock can say like, oh, I've got all these TVs and or not TVs, or movies that I've made, and I can walk over, and that's just an easier sell for him. But that's a whole different part of the conversation.
I want to inspire the audience to come up and grab the mic at any point. We want you on mic so that we can hear you for the recording, but you've got content creators to give you tips on how to get your stuff out there and get it seen, and you've got studios here to buy it. So at any point, and we've got a little time left, but I hate those panels where they save room for one question at the end. So at any point, just come on up and interrupt us.
I'll open the playbook. I will just give you everything. That's fine.
I asked you guys via email, so I wouldn't put you massively on the spot, but I thought we could maybe have a little bit of fun with either the most shockingly successful pitch you ever had, the thing that went so fast and wonderful you couldn't believe it, you scratched yourself, and then maybe a horror story of either being rejected in a way that just sent you into a frenzy.
Looking at me?
Come on, I gave you fair warning.
I can. I'm not comfortable with giving the most successful one that occurred behind closed doors, but the worst one was in 2007. I was pitching Sony, trying to. My buddy and I came out having done the BC, which was awful. Don't get me wrong. It was as proud as we were, and it got us a deal with HBO. It sucked. It was so bad. But we thought we were amazing because we did this thing, and aren't you proud of us? Pat us on the head. We walked into Sony, who do great things, and they went, what the hell is this? Like, who are you people? And we were trying to pitch this college comedy series that was going to be 4 years in a series, and it ended, I'm not kidding, with me under the table in the fetal position. I thought I was trying to make some kind of point about how college is hard and that, and that's how midterm exams go, but I was just so out of my league.
Performance art.
It was bad. It was real bad.
I think comedy is one of those. I mean, we probably can all relate to that, but we're doing a comedy slate, and you get people, bad comedy is just so bad, and people come in with those pitches, and you're sitting there, and nobody's laughing, and you're watching their reel, and I mean, there's just so many people who come in and think
difficult to say
they're funny.
if it's actually funny or not, though.
Right.
I find that sometimes I have to just remove myself from it and say it doesn't matter what I think, it matters what the audience thinks, because there are some things that the audience just loves,
Right.
goes
Yeah.
bananas for, and I don't get it, and there's some stuff that I think is just amazing that they're just like, meh. But yeah, nothing is more awkward than a bad comedy pitch.
Yeah.
I don't really have a bad one. I haven't pitched that much, but all my pitches have really been to traditional studios, besides Generate, which was really lucky. In our first round of pitches, we sold 2 shows, but it's to go against what he said. We didn't use video, but the deal is we're pitching Warner Brothers. Our Warner Brothers deal, we pitched Wonderland, and McGee was our executive producer. So they're not video-centric studios. They're more traditional TV and film studios that were dipping their toe into the web space. And so I think they wanted it in more of a traditional fashion. But what I did is I worked with a writing partner, a producing partner, and so it felt so much better to have 2 people go in there together in case you forget what you're saying and have someone else pick up the slack. That worked really well. But we weren't pitching comedy either. It was drama, so that was good.
I want to shift the conversation for a minute to working with brands, because we've got, distributors here, studios, and content creators. And in the last years and rapidly now, we're seeing a lot of brands jump in, big ones, and integrate into the content. How's that gone for those of you up here? And can somebody share, some view about where they think this next year takes us with branded entertainment?
It's an absolute necessity now. Part of my pitch design process is I will go to a distributor like a Machinima or a MyDamnChannel and say, okay, I've got the show, could you give us, however, do you like it first? And then they say yes, because my shows are amazing, clearly. And they'll say, okay, here's some money, but that won't be enough to get us to the place that we need. But then I can take that and say, walk over to say, for example, I'm pitching a show called Woody and Craig Zombie Hunters. Obviously, we are not the first people to the zombie comedy party, but we have locked in a $50,000 investor. And I get to walk over to pick a distributor and say, okay, I've got this money now. And then I can walk over with that distributor saying, I'll help fund for a pittance, and walk over to Ford and say, okay, I have now $100,000 and a pretty guaranteed 200,000 views just at bare minimum. And that translates to brands immediately because they know those are views, they're engaged. We'll of course feature their product in the most engaging, awesome way possible, drive it through a wall or something like that, not a scratch on it, etc. But especially as we go forward, you must have brands in your things. That was a terrible sentence. But you have to be able to incorporate you have to be able to incorporate brands, maybe not necessarily in your pitch. Like I have another post-apocalyptic comedy that features an artificial intelligence trapped in a phone that hates the kids it has to help through the apocalypse. But I built that in going, okay, I can take that to Sprint, I can take that to T-Mobile, I can take that to Apple and say, here's your phone, it houses an artificial intelligence, it saves the world, and it will probably be voiced by an A-list or B-list actress. And that just translates to dollars. But you have to have that now.
Yeah, I think
Jeremy.
It's really attractive to brands to get integrated organically with the kind of content that we're all doing, because if you look at our audience, for example, it's like 18 to 34 males. It's really easy to integrate a product that appeals to that demo, especially if we're talking about movies and video games and stuff like that. So it's something that we do a lot, something we'll continue to do more and more of. And at the end of the day, it's just a more valuable proposition for the advertiser when they say, oh, I could put it on TV for X amount of dollars, and there's no follow through. In fact, who do you know that watches TV without just kind of like DVRing through the commercials?
Yeah, and we've done some research that shows the viewers are kind of responding more or better to that as well. Instead of having to watch a 15-second pre-roll or a 30-second pre-roll or however long it is, actually just getting an organic integration into the show is much more palatable for the viewer too.
An organic integration was something that they already like, sort of translates to them also liking this other product, and then you give them the option to follow through and perform an action. Like, it couldn't be a better value proposition right there.
We've got a bunch of people lined up, so if you would just give us your name, where you're from, and fire away. Hardballs, welcome.
All right, so my name is Gregory Storm.
Hey, Greg.
Hi.
I'm sorry, can you just boost the audience mic for us in the back just a little bit?
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, oh, wow, okay.
Perfect, that's
It's
great.
boosted.
Thank
Hey. All right, my name is Gregory Storm, and I'm a writer-director, and I was nominated for a Writers Guild Award last year for a project that I wrote. And I have a couple of questions. First, when you're taking a project at Machinima or MyDamnChannel or Yahoo, do you try to get the IP, or does the creator keep the IP and basically just sort of, like it's a partnership, but they essentially keep the IP? Like, that's number one.
Try to own your rights if at all possible. That's what I would say as a creator.
What's
I'm
that
sorry,
again?
say it again.
Try to keep control of your.
Oh, right, yeah, I know I want to, but I want to know.
I would
what they-
license
yeah.
instead of sell if at all possible. That would be.
For me, it works a couple different ways. If you're asking me to give you a lot of money up front, then I'm going to want a piece of your IP, because then I've got some skin in the game, and there's some risk that I've taken on my part. But the other opportunity is if you really want to control more of your IP, YouTube and most online distribution platforms can operate as sort of a meritocracy, where you basically make as much money as well as you perform, as opposed to like trying to get a big paycheck up front, right? So that puts more risk on you, but because of that, it's easier to control more of your IP that way. So you kind of have to ask yourself, like, can I get this done on my own, and gamble on myself?
Right.
Or do I want to sell off part of my IP to, get this made because I don't have any other way to make it?
Anna, how's it going to work for the new comedy for the new comedy slate at Yahoo on intellectual property?
I mean, it varies across the board, so I wouldn't say that there's a blanket rule. I think it just depends on the project and the person and what it is. I mean, I think we tend to usually shy away from just straight out licensing somebody else's stuff that they've created in advance. We would rather be a part of the process and have some kind of ownership around it so that we can help to shape it and make sure it works for our audience, because otherwise we'll just, we're sort of losing control of how to drive viewers to it. So we like to see it as more of a collaborative process.
I had a nightmare situation with an IP. I signed a deal. My deal with HBO was horrific. I think they own my Facebook notes still. I'm not kidding. Anything that was in my brain in perpetuity throughout the universe. And as a result, when our deal went over to break, the deal still held. And I had created Elevator there, and Break still owns Elevator, and they locked me out of the channel after I left, and it was just a nightmare. So if you can, own the IP. Absolutely own the IP. But if you can't, and you'll get a lot of money for it, compromise.
See, that's the thing, a lot of money, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Say it again?
Oh, no, I was saying that, yeah, a lot of money would be good. It seems like, at least a couple of years ago, that it was small amounts of money, and people sort of wanted everything, like, kind of with your HBO deal. Like when I wrote for a show on the CW, and while I was under contract as a staff writer for that show, yeah, same thing. Any thought that I had, that I put on paper, it's like, oh, they own that. So my agent said, yeah, you don't want to create anything while you're still writing for this show.
Right.
Now that I'm doing web stuff, it's like, all right, I could own my IP. There's a value to that, especially with sci-fi and like, definitely zombies, or with Continuum. I mean, that goes on forever, The show that I have, or one of the shows, one is a sci-fi, but the other one that's kind of, I guess, in the Yahoo league. I wish it was for Machinima, but it's not for 18 to 35-year-old boys or guys. It's a show about infertility, and so we've been promoting it, and we just launched our Facebook page in November, where we have today we hit 3,200 followers or fans of the show.
Congrats.
So it's like, yeah, I'm like, woohoo!
That's great.
Can I ask you a favor to just hold a couple of the other questions so we can get to some of the others,
okay.
and then I promise we'll try and get back to you,
Sure.
okay?
Sure, okay.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Sir, the mic is yours.
I've always wanted a mic. My name's Marty Levine. I'm from Vancouver, BC. Co-founder of a social media startup there, but also I've been doing digital distribution deals for a long time for different companies. Trying to get a sense of the business models that you're starting to attach to the content deals that you're doing. I mean, you kind of touched on it a bit in talking about branded entertainment, a little bit about some of the upfront money that you've talked about. But what are the business models that are working for you and for the content creators, so that people at the end of the day make money and can turn this into a business, a profession?
For me, there's a bunch of different ways you can look at it. Right now, I'm focusing a lot on YouTube, particularly YouTube CPM, and I can walk into Machinima and say, I have this show. It costs $200,000. I can give you 13 episodes. It'll be DVD length. You can make money on the back end by putting out a Redbox or putting on Netflix. International sales are a big thing. There was a series called The Bannon Way that got nearly into the black because it had a DVD potential, or it got packaged as a DVD and did really well internationally. Actually, was on Stars in Canada for a little while. I digress. But being able to show a distributor or a studio, I can make this money back if I have X number of views. I have this proven team, I have this proven talent attached that you can never guarantee views unless you buy them, and that happens. I don't advocate it, but it happens anyways. but you can walk in and have a very real presentation of, I can almost guarantee these number of views, so we make money on this starting at episode 6, and then we just print cash. Now, obviously, that's easy to say, but if you have good enough content and you can prove a return on investment, then it's just.
And if you have an advertiser involved from the get-go,
Yes.
that obviously eliminates a lot of the risk. And the great thing about YouTube is that these shows kind of live forever there, so they continue to make advertising dollars kind of for the lifetime of the content. So if you start a second series and the first series is still alive and you have show pages for those, everybody that watches the second series that hasn't already seen the first series, and maybe some of those that have, will go back and watch the first one too, and so you're making advertising dollars on those as well.
I would say too, it's just constantly evolving the model. I mean, we used to, we did a lot of brand entertainment. We still do a ton of brand entertainment, but we're not waiting around for sponsors anymore to create good content. Like with the slate approach that I was talking about with, sort of female-oriented programming and comedy-oriented programming, we're just producing that content because we know advertisers will buy into it in more of a TV-style model. So we can just sort of offer this slate of premium programming, and advertisers can buy into a share of that, but they don't have to put up the kinds of costs that they would with a brand entertainment program. So that's giving us a lot more leeway to create content that we just know is going to work for our audience, and so that's exciting.
Do you have a follow-up? I want to make sure that, with your time, I want to make sure with your time you feel like you have enough of a response from us, because there are so many different models that are used. And I think with, media campaigns and branded entertainment, you've got two completely different worlds with, all kinds of different expectations. But you're certainly not hearing anybody on this panel say we're going to charge you $5 yet to watch a 3-minute video. So, you're looking at a lot of ad-supported people up here.
And that seems to be what I'm hearing here, that the business model is get a sponsor, get something where the views are going to be enough to cover your costs. And by the way, that raises the question of, what's the break-even point? How many views do you need to make something viable? And I know it depends on how much it costs you to produce it, but if you
Well, if you're getting $2 CPMs, that's pretty common.
Yeah.
So if you do 1 million views, what is that? $2,000, I think. $2,000.
Yeah.
So it's not very good.
I mean, we're definitely living in an age now where the content creator is king, but the content creator also has to be marketer, advertising genius, accountant, lawyer, and really when you get right down to it, I think you have to look at each individual series project as its own business. What do I want to get out of it? What do I think I can get back from it? And then, the last thing I'll say, and we'll take another question, is that I think you got to invest in yourself. You've got to decide that an advertiser may not be there in that first knock on the door. An advertiser may not be there after the 100th knock on the door. And at a certain point, like Anna said, I think we all, no matter how big, medium, or small, have to get out there and make the best work we can and know that the return might come in some other way at some point, if not immediately. It's not easy to get a yes from the biggest advertisers in the world, but it's getting better every day. So thanks for coming, and thanks for asking us to talk on that. Sir, please grab us and fire away.
This is his mic, right? Oh, wow, that's really...
Tell us who you are first and where you're from.
Yeah, I'm Jason Brenner from Los Angeles, Brenner Music. I work with the management team for Colleen Shannon, who's the world's sexiest DJ, Playboy's 50th anniversary centerfold. Virgin Produced is wanting to produce her TV show this year. And my questions are, what is a better avenue to go, web or major networks versus advertising money and buyout money? Second question, what web companies are distributed in China or through KTV media forms like that?
So who wants to tackle is it for the web or is it for television?
And is Playboy a pitchable thing, or is it advised not to go into the situation that she came from Playboy?
Playboy's definitely a pitchable thing. And though we've made I can speak for myself, though I made my bones on the web, I am always thinking, never limit yourself thinking that the show that you're pitching is web only. There are different avenues and different advantages that the web can give. But if you're not thinking about your show as a television show on a major network or focused towards like a USA or a FX or something like that, then don't limit yourself.
Or, I mean, can't it be both?
Well, that is a good question. Would a major network limit me from selling the product to a KTV medium or somewhere in China?
It's not unusual to work with, a combination of a studio and a web network.
Yeah.
Like we distributed exclusively on YouTube the Walking Dead Torn Apart miniseries with AMC, and also Mortal Kombat Legacy we did in partnership with Warner Brothers. So it's not unreasonable that you might have something that lives in both places. And I think Playboy is kind of a classic enough brand where there isn't really that much of a stigma about it.
It was on a major network.
Yeah,
the Playboy Club was on NBC.
Playboy Channel.
Yeah, and then you have
NBC,
the Girls Next Door and all that stuff. I mean, it's pretty brand safe, I would say, at this point.
And from right now, like Paris Hilton's dating Afrojack. You guys familiar with BETtv? BETtv.com. It's like the new. They go to all the major DJ events. Where if you look at statistics on Twitter and Yahoo, I'm not sure about Yahoo, but YouTube, stuff like that, the top 40 followed people are musicians, except for Jim Carrey and Ashton Kutcher and Kim Kardashian. Besides those, the people with the multi-million hits are all musicians. So my question is, I guess you answered my question. I don't know. They can be web and network as well.
Yeah, I mean, two of the top 3 channels on YouTube are Warner and Vivo. So yeah, music definitely has an appeal there for sure.
Yeah, because Vivo went out of its way to make sure there was no other music videos or performances of songs on YouTube.
And that's the thing with the followers is that people that movie actors and stuff like that they already have their advertising stuff like that. They're not looking for followers or whatever. And musicians are, I guess. Is that a difference or something? Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hi.
Hi, how are you? My name is Isabel, and I'm creative director of Bikini Shell. And my question is in regards to branded entertainment. And I would like to know when somebody is coming in to pitch something to you, as far as requirements go, what would be something that would be standard? As far as you had mentioned that Tom Hanks is doing 4 6-minute segments with the digital animation series, and granted, maybe I'm wrong.
It's 4 to 6 minute segments, yeah, and
Okay.
there's like 90 minutes of material.
Okay.
Yeah.
And versus the branded entertainment, something as a pitching my idea to you, would you be looking, say, in context of a fashion series, a web series? Are you looking for a 13 segments, 6 segments, 3-minute segments? Is there a standard requirement? Because I'm basically new to this, and I would definitely like to know more about, am I going to come in? I don't want to fall flat on my face. That would be horrible.
I think it's helpful to look at it in 45-minute or 90-minute segments, like kind of together.
For the web?
Yeah, for the web, because if you
45-minute
want to look at
segment?
like an alternate form of distribution later, it doesn't hurt to have that opportunity, right? I mean, that's kind of why we're
So
saying-
Yeah, I mean, it
45
depends what it is. Like, we have a very popular fashion series called The Thread, which is a branded entertainment show that we do with P&G, which you should take a look at. It's been
Definitely.
one of the most successful shows online and one of the most successful brand entertainment models. And it's more sort of like information, how to get the look for less. It's not a scripted series or anything. So I think it depends. Like, the Hank series is a scripted series, and this one is a non-scripted. So for something like that, I would say, short is good. I mean, people, I think for that kind of thing, these segments are usually 2 to 4 minutes long, and you usually can tell when something feels too long. I think when when you're watching it and you start to feel like, it feels long, that's usually our metric for saying it is long. And sometimes that hits at 1.5 minutes. Sometimes it's 45 seconds, and sometimes that's 10 minutes. It depends on the kind of content. So I would just say, look around at what's online, and
So there's really no beginning to end versus a thread is just an ongoing
It's
online, kind of like a magazine.
yeah, it's a
or
weekly, we
just
have
a
like weekly video series and then a blog that goes with it, but each episode is a self-contained series about, how to get that look for less, or how to
Right.
prevent dry skin, or whatever it may be.
Right.
And then, it kind of carries on, but it's not an episodic thing. But it depends, like there's lots of different
So
types of.
that would be something that could be pitched along coming in. I would be pitching that as a branded entertainment. An
Yeah.
ongoing branded entertainment. There is no series, but you could possibly
Well, I mean,
scrunch
if
those
it's
into
the
a
type
video
of content you're talking about is,
content.
maybe doesn't matter as much.
Right.
I would just say that to focus on the simple fact that short is shareable.
Yes.
And you want to have people in the community watching that and then sending it to their friends at work or at school, and they're not going to do that if it's like 7 or 10 minutes long usually.
Right,
they
because I
wanna-
just know people get bored. They have
You
ADD,
want them to
blah,
send
blah,
it
blah.
to 10 friends and then watch it twice,
Right.
One thing I would add about branded entertainment is that I think one of the mistakes we might have made in our company in the early years was thinking that, the work is so great, a brand's just going to fall in love with it and want to attach their spots to it. In truth, the most money that we've made over all these years comes when we're really in partnership with a brand who think of themselves as much as producers of that content as we do. So the final ideas that come with, branded entertainment that has healthy dollars to it.
So you should come in with already their acknowledgement on paper. Is that it?
Say it again?
I'm sorry. You should come in to the panel with their blessing, or with already having them put on the table, like, okay, I have this company, I have this designer, I have this label who is interested to being a part of this segment.
That's always the
That'd be
best.
nice.
If you
Yeah,
can.
that'd be great. If
But
Blue Fly said, you have our blessing, that'd be great, but then you wouldn't even need to go to a
Wouldn't need a
distributor.
studio.
Yeah,
The
you
most
just
important
make
thing,
it.
I think, is, like what Woody was saying, is just put on the hat of how the integrations could happen, and be prepared to come in and say, here's a bunch of ideas of how we could integrate a brand into this program. Just because every content creator should be thinking about the monetization aspect and how you could integrate something.
Okay.
I mean, branded entertainment for fashion shows a layup. I mean, you think about what Project Runway does with the Blue Fly accent wall, or I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
But that's, it's just baked in.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Al Thompson.
What? Dude, why are you here? You pitched more than both of us together. You're the hardest working man on the internet.
I just wanted to sit back and hang out in the back with everybody else. But I had a question more so on the distribution platform side of things. I just wanted to know maybe what were some of the trends or things coming across your desk, whether it's RFP or anything in that realm, as far as multicultural content. Or I don't know if Yahoo had stuff on their slate or things in development. And I guess, what do you guys kind of see happening in that arena, whether it's brands or content that happens to come up?
I think that's an interesting area of expansion. I mean, we haven't gotten a whole lot of RFP requests in that category, and we haven't decided to create like a specific multicultural channel. But we've definitely, I think it's definitely an area that's going to explode and grow a lot more as, more people get online and get access to video and all of that kind of thing. We've definitely expanded a lot of our shows to, the Hispanic market. We had the Thread just expanded, not just, but a while ago expanded with a version called Demoda, which is in the Hispanic market. So it just depends. But I haven't seen a huge amount of like appetite or requests coming from advertisers on that front, or from the audience necessarily. But we talk about it a lot, and I think it could be a really big growth area for a lot of us.
We see a little bit of that on YouTube, only because probably 50% of our audience is international, and 50% is in the U.S. So there are different types of programming that do really well in the UK or in Europe or in Japan or somewhere else. So some of the partners that we work with are kind of creating different kinds of content for those areas, and we're looking at that as a thing. But this whole space is kind of so new that a lot of the focus is on broader themes right now, I find, right? So we're doing a lot of stuff on, we're really focused on video games, obviously, and then kind of action and, horror, and kind of like in that demo that we're reaching, right? So we don't get as granular as that. Usually with our kind of U.S. programming, but I think going forward you'll see a lot more of it.
Well, at the same time, Maker Studios just just started two new YouTube channels. One strictly for content for moms. The other one is strictly Spanish. So I think, and honestly, like those guys who run Makers, Maker Studios, they have an ear to the ground, especially with online distribution. So if they're doing moms in Spanish, I think we should be paying attention to it.
Yeah, I mean, you would be surprised how, I mean, we have a couple animation channels, which is great because animation is so universal, but in Latin American countries like Veta La Verge and Familia Del Barrio are killing it. It's so good, doing really well. So, yeah.
And it's easily redubbed, too.
Absolutely.
It's international gold.
Right?
I have a couple of more questions before we wrap up, and Blake, I want to ask you to talk about the premise of our panel, which is, getting attention and getting access to studios and getting distribution. Talk a little bit about the role of agents and managers and a sort of talent infrastructure in this game, and how you think that can help.
Well, again, if you're talking more traditional, I think agents are imperative. I don't think you can get in the door at Warner Brothers if you're not repped, at least in most cases. That was my experience. But again, back to my original point, the idea that the web gives you more freedom to be an independent creator that can work with studios but still do your own thing. I don't think you have to have an agent or manager to get in the door, especially at places like your company. You don't have to be with CAA to get a meeting, I would assume. But I do think with more of the traditional, I mean, wouldn't you agree? More of the traditional media studios, an agent can open a door, but then that's all they do, by the way. They don't do anything else for you. I've learned that the hard way. I mean,
I have not had one meeting that my agent had set up. I've only found them on my own. But
I find again, just with my experience on the studio side, what we went around and picked, I mean, Fox and Warner Brothers and I'm blanking out right now, but any big studio, I mean, our agents set those meetings up. But then beyond that, it's kind of like what you're doing here. It's going to panels and networking and meeting people, and then you just like she said earlier, if you know someone at Yahoo that can get you in the door, I mean, it is this business more than any other business is about networking, I find.
I think it also kind of depends on what level you're at.
Well, that's
right?
true, too.
I mean, we produce on two different levels. We have the more UGC, as we call it, UGC evolved or semi-pro or whatever you want to call it, and then we have the very like kind of studio produced stuff where you're always going to encounter agents and managers at that level. But if it's like your first time doing stuff on the web and you don't really have anything to show for yourself yet, and then you bring in agents and managers and they're aggressive, that's really only going to be a roadblock because we have 1,000 other people that we can be working with that are ready to go and have something to show.
We're going to take another couple of questions, and then get ready for it, the big philosophical finale. Take the mic, please, and tell us who you are.
Hi, Adriana Cisneros. I run a media company that specializes in content in Spanish for the U.S. Hispanic and Latin America. We were starting to look at content that also appeals to the U.S. Hispanic market, but the U.S. Hispanics that prefer English language programming. Are you guys seeing that there's a market for that sort of programming on the web? Is that something that you think would be of interest to you beyond programming in Spanish, actually just programming to attack the U.S. Hispanic population in English?
Yeah, absolutely. It just has to be, again, to your point earlier, you just have to know who you're pitching to, right? Like if it's in the wheelhouse of the kind of stuff that Machinima produces, then we're absolutely interested in that sort of thing. But the stuff that we're interested in and the stuff that you're interested in and stuff that you're interested in is all very different. So you just kind of need to do your homework on who it is that you're pitching that to.
Yeah, if you missed the beginning of the panel, Anna from Yahoo gave some really great core advice, which is, know your studio, know your distributor, take that time that people shockingly normally don't take. I guess maybe because it's so frustrating and exhausting for all of us to pitch our work thousands of places, but every single time you walk into that door, the more you know about, the real nitty-gritty of what they've been doing, what they've said they can do. I mean, all of our information is out there, There's very little hidden these days, but it always does surprise surprised me, just to be a cranky old guy for a second, how people kind of come in and really have, not watched more than a couple of minutes of what's going on. But I just want to say to you and to the last question that we find that we're not getting enough pitches like yours. We need more, and I hope you'll pitch us.
And that would also be a good one to, connect a brand to that, because I think there are probably brands that want to reach that audience segment, and if you could get a brand attached and bring that in, that would be a really compelling way to kind of incentivize us to be a part of it.
Sir.
Hi, I'm Mike Maris. I'm a freelance journalist. If I go beyond the scope of the session, just let me know.
Just if you can get a little closer to the mic.
Mike Maris, if I go beyond the scope of the discussion, please let me know. So,
we've been warned.
Excuse me?
We've been warned. You're going beyond the scope.
Maybe not. So if a producer is successful in getting the attention of a studio, and the show is produced, perhaps with collaboration of the studio, there's still no guarantee of getting an audience. So would you agree first that these content providers, aggregators, have some clout analogous to what networks have in terms of being able to place products well that help them get an audience on a page? And if so, then what do producers do to try to set a good foundation for some good promotion by the service provider later?
So is the premise of the question that the digital studios are beginning to have some of the clout of the networks of old, and is the question to us pointed mostly towards how to get promotion in that system?
Right, clout analogous to being able to show a clip on the homepage of, say, Yahoo Studios, rather than having it buried in a non-prime time slot.
Yeah, that's a great question, and that's one that I think every content creator fears. In the earliest days of, let's take YouTube, for example, we haven't talked much about them today. They had editors, and those of us who tried as best as we could to get to know those editors hoped that our video would be featured by human editorial choice, which then became algorithms. So, I think it's a great topic. We could probably have another 2-hour panel on it, and I'll ask maybe just for a couple of brief comments, because I am a big believer, like the questioner, that without old-fashioned promotion and with the increase in the amount of video that's hitting, we're in trouble if somebody like MyDamnChannel or Yahoo doesn't really fall in love and push. So anybody want to grab?
If such a curator function, if it exists, what does the independent producer do to set a good foundation for that?
Well, curation it's done in every art form. That's just by nature of having a show on your site. But in my experience, if it wasn't for the YouTube editors, they featured my first show, Pink, on the front page of YouTube, and actually I saved it because that was pretty amazing. Because after that, in 3 weeks, we had 4 million views on our first episode. Yep. And so I can't even remember her name. I wanted to buy her a beer, big time. But that was back in 2007.
Felicia Williams.
That's exactly who it was. Yeah.
There you go.
She loved Pink. So
she's awesome.
Yeah.
Felicia Williams, if you're watching this, Blake owes you a beer.
Well, I tried to buy her one.
Maybe more. I'm going to go with more than a beer.
I tried
for
to
4
buy her one
million
at Digital
views.
Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a Vespa.
Yeah.
She helped us too. So
Yeah.
thank you.
So anyway, my point is that helped me personally, our show, a lot. And I still think if you're featured on Machinima, you're going to get I know Felicia Day's show, Dragon Age, they feature that a lot, and it got a lot of views.
Yeah,
so it helps.
Our approach is really...
Come a little closer on the mic, Joe.
It is a meritocracy, right? So if you make really good content, then you will be seen. That's how it works on YouTube, because it's that transparent, right? Everybody can see what you're doing. If you're networking and getting to know people, it's really helpful. We have a guy named Clinton Jones. He goes by Punisher. He was just a kid. He must have been 19 years old. He taught himself how to do special effects. He was really good. He just started emailing, Freddie Wong and Corridor Digital and all these guys saying, hey, I'll do some stuff for you for free. And they started using him, and he started doing his own stuff. And then he started working with Machinima, because we have a whole group of guys that are watching everything that happens. We've seen everything that all of you guys are doing. We watched everything that's on YouTube. and we are looking out for these people that are like go-getters, you know what I mean? That like can just pull themselves up by the bootstraps, take a blue-collar approach to it, and get out there and network and get out there and make content. If you do that, we will see you, and if you do it well, we will promote you.
I disagree a little bit about the whole. There's a lot of talk about the signal to noise ratio. That for every pink, for every receiver, there are 8 million cat videos. So it's very. Although it is a meritocracy, and I do agree about that point. Just saying that if it's good, they'll see it is not necessarily true, which is why it is so important to, for my checklist, for my next show, I will either find talent who I can attach to it, say, I'm doing a show right now with Alloy, soon to be Alloy, called Quality Time, with these two YouTubers, Cat Riffic and Strawberry 17. And I am able to walk into a room and say, these girls have 300,000 subscribers, that translates into views. Now, if I did that same show somewhere else with two people who were probably very good actresses but don't command that attention, that's a lose-lose situation. You need activation energy to kind of bounce up your series. So, or if I'm pitching a sci-fi comedy or something like that, I'm immediately going over to Machinima because I know they do, again, 1 billion views a month. Like, I don't know if that's insane.
It's a lot.
That's crazy. But I can walk over there and hopefully, get something made, and I know that if they like it or if they put it in their primetime scheduling, that's guaranteed views. When Mortal Kombat Legacy came out, I did a show called Game Room that was seen. It was a locked frame, one-take show from the viewpoint of Microsoft Kinect. And Machinima sent us an email saying, Mortal Kombat Legacy is coming, we would really like it if you would put it in your subscriber box. And that way on day one, they were promoting it immediately. And it had, 7 million views on the first day or something like that?
Yeah, about that. I mean, it was competitive with mainstream television.
It exploded, and it's incredible content. So, like you said, meritocracy totally
But
works.
we were doing exactly what I said. We practice what we preach. You have to aggressively market and network and promote your content. It's not enough just for it to be good, to your point, but it helps. It really
But
does.
I do think there is that black hole, of
Yeah.
video where it's so easy to create something and then have it sort of not be findable, and that's why for us context and curation is everything. I mean, any project that we sign up, we're going to be promoting and featuring on our front page, and we believe in it, and so we're going to promote it in an editorial fashion a lot more probably than a YouTube would. And we have all of these channels like Yahoo Finance and Yahoo News and OMG and Shine and all of the #1 category things where we can contextualize that video and give it more life. So it's not just disappearing into a black hole. And then of course on top of that, that's another reason why we've gotten celebrities involved, because we can activate their social bases. And it's also about reaching out to bloggers and getting them to see the content and like it, which we've done with our cooking shows and things. So it's kind of a whole machine of stuff. But I mean, for us, it's obviously about picking content that we know our audience is going to like and programming it on our front page.
2 super quick thoughts just to you also have to think about where you would be distributing it. So if you have a show that that has a very strong international focus or is geared specifically towards Brazil, don't put it on Hulu because it's geo-blocked and people outside of the United States can't watch or share your content. So that's something you have to think of. And also, if you're going into a negotiation or something with a studio or a MyDamnChannel or something like that, if it's not said, I mean, MyDamnChannel or Machinima or Yahoo would be stupid not to promote the shows that they're paying for, clearly. But if it's not spelled out for you right off the bat, get it in writing that they're going to promote it. Or if you're going to have, say, Ashton Kutcher be on your web series, you should probably get in writing that he has to tweet out to his millions of followers that he's doing this thing. But he tweets incessantly anyway, so that's probably not a consideration.
No, it's a good point, though, because it's everybody's job. I mean, I love hearing that the distributors are taking the responsibility of promotion, but the promotion responsibility also lies with every single person on that production, because we're living in that world now where you have to push. We're going to take one more question from the audience, and then I've got a final one for our panel. So,
I just have a question. Is it frownable or legal to use other celebrities as pull or draw to your YouTube channel and stuff like that?
Are they in it?
Maybe like based on a song or a clip from a song or something that's a part of the video
have they said it's okay to use it?
Well, sometimes I get UMG or different companies saying it's copyright infringement, but more so than that, like if I use the Britney Spears name as a tag or something, is it frownable or is it legal to do that?
Well, if you're referencing the person, or if you're a news show, if it's some kind of, if it's organically part of it,
Or if
yes.
it's parody,
Or if it's parody.
there's no problem.
Otherwise, that channel's going to get shut down quick.
Exactly. So, okay, thanks.
Thanks. I cut you off earlier, so yes, you please take the last audience question. Thanks.
All right, and you said hardball is all right, so these are some hardball questions.
Hardball. Well, no, we're running out of time, so
Well, yeah, I mean,
hit us with two.
Yeah,
Two hardballs.
Well, yeah, I mean the
All right.
hardball question, I should
All
say. So in terms of scripted shows, what dollar amounts are we really talking about that the shows can, recoup in terms of investment? So like if we're putting money in, or if like the studio is putting money in, or the network, like what dollar amounts should we say, okay, if it's over this, we're never going to make our money back. If it's under this, then we could probably recoup from sponsors or from, well, not from views at, $2 CPM, but like what's that number? And also, what is your mark of success for one of your shows? Like what does it need to hit? Like for Morgan Spurlock's show or for Receiver, what did you say, okay, if it does X, it's successful. If it doesn't do X, it's not. What is that bar?
Yeah, I'm gonna mark the first question not as your hardball, but really as the curveball, because I think it'd be almost impossible for any of the five of us to talk about budgets, because it's always dependent on the content and what it is. So I doubt that, if we're 6 years into this, there's really any hard and fast rules for, exactly what an episode should cost. But on that second question, remind me his second one.
How do you measure success?
Yes. What are the measurements?
I think
So
that's-
is 100,000 the new million, or is a million the new million? What how do you guys want to tackle that?
It also depends on the case. I mean, sometimes we're measuring success on streams, but there's a formula that we look at. How much is this kind of changing the brand perception, or helping our brand perception, or getting buzz out about Yahoo and what we're doing in original video? That's a big piece of it too. So, we have some shows that are huge traffic drivers, and that's sort of the main goal of them, and then some that are really just helping to build our brand. And that also relates to advertisers. Like some advertisers are looking for massive scale, and that's one thing they come to Yahoo for, because we can give you, 15 million streams on one show in 1 month. But some of them are looking for a niche audience that really resonates with that content. We did a show with Bud Light called Behind Enemy Lines, all about like super sports fans, and it wasn't like huge traffic, but it really like clicked with their core audience. So it depends. Not for us. I think it was like 1 million streams for maybe 10 or 12 episodes. So for us, we have shows that are that are through the roof, that are doing a lot more than that. So we have some episodes that are getting 3 million streams for a single episode. So.
Well, one thing I would say just real quickly is, and it's not really geared towards exact numbers, but if you're doing a revenue share like on YouTube, CPMs, the only way you're going to make money, in my opinion, is if you have a lot of episodes, like Elevator. If you have a scripted show like Continuum, or like Pink has 35 episodes, that's not bad. But if you have a show that has 10 episodes and it's narrative, you're not going to make any money on YouTube. Even if you get 1 million views per episode, that's $2,000. So you're not.
What if your show cost $1,000?
Well, that's true. That's the variant, But most of the narrative stuff is the more expensive stuff. Most people are spending 50 to 100 grand on 10 episodes or something. That's just a ballpark. But my point is, I think that's why a lot of the shows on like Revision 3, all those hosted tech shows that are quick and and they have hundreds of episodes, they make money. Machinima's an exception to that rule, but but they have tons. How many videos on YouTube channel? It's like hundreds.
Yeah, it really
Thousands.
depends on the platform, and even on platforms, there's still exceptions to the case. Like Machinima uploads a lot of videos, right? So I'm pretty happy if I have a show that's doing 100,000 views a week. I have certain shows that are programmed to do 250,000, and some that are supposed to do 1 million or several million. It just depends on what our programming needs are for that type of content, who it's made for. You know, we have different audiences that come to Machinima for different reasons, whereas we might have another channel like Reckless Tortuga that we work with where they want to get a lot of views on the online gamer, right? And that's kind of their focus. And then they have other shows that support, right? Or guys like Corridor Digital, who we talked about before, who they want to get 2 to 4 million views plus on every single thing they do because they only upload a couple videos a week, right? So it's kind of like a volume versus performance metric. Really hard to put a solid number on what's good or bad.
But also things like awards, you know, is a metric that we look at. Like, is it going to win an award? I mean, speaking of tonight, we're going, you know, we're all, a lot of our shows are nominated for awards. Like, is it an award-winning show? You know, maybe it's not reaching a huge audience, but maybe it's connecting with that community and it's winning Webby Awards and winning all kinds of awards and really, you know, getting attention. So that's also a good metric to look at.
I want to thank everybody for coming here and having what ended up being a really good conversation that hit on more topics than I thought we could even get to in the time. So I want to end on a personal note and ask each of you to, well, here we are, we're in Vegas, right? So, you know, at any moment you can kind of go out there and hit it as big as you can possibly hit it. So everybody that's up here and everybody that's watching and everyone that's in this community works incredibly hard to get whatever level of success we can get to with video. So starting with you, Jeremy, and then we're going to come down the panel. Let's make believe that the greatest fantastic thing happens and the world tonight goes to sleep, and when they wake up in the morning, everything bends to your will in your best professional goals for yourself and maybe for Machinima. What do you want to have happen in the next couple of years where everything's going your way with the community that we work in?
Wow, I don't know. I mean, I guess I would really like it if Machinima became a sort of like a household name in the way that, you know, a Fox or a CBS or an NBC is, you know. And I would like that for a lot of us here, you know. I think a lot of people refer to what we're doing online as sort of like the next wave of television, and that it's sort of doing what cable TV did, you know, when that came out. And I really see it going that way. So I don't think it's a crazy thing to look forward to, but I think that's, you know, if I could have anything, that would be it.
So Woody, if all the obstacles went away for you and you were in the best possible spot as a creator and a producer and you know, a maker of all things new, what would it look like?
Santorini, Greece, for starters.
What'd you say?
Santorini, Greece. I'm not allowed to go back. I'm just hoping that the government lets me. But I think cross-platform. So I will put my answer directly to web and not talk about my plans for world domination in television and film. But if the ideal, if it was, you know, by the end of this year, I want a web production shingle. I want to be running my whole thing is that I always want to be telling stories with people who either challenge me or take some different angle that I hadn't thought of before and just constantly increase my storytelling and my reach. I want to have a network that I'm running 4 different shows with creators and directors who I admire and respect. Maybe not respect, but
I think that was comedy.
I want to have ebooks. I want to have 2 science fiction action comedies. I want an animated series about all the countries of the world as high school students. Don't you dare steal that. Why did I say it? Yeah, I also want a dog.
And a pony.
Shepherd because
and a pony.
They have people eyes. Yeah.
Blake.
Similar to Woody, truthfully. I'm going to branch into doing some other things. I mean, in the web world, but I've produced 5 feature films, and I've done some TV, and I've done 7 web shows, I guess, something like that. But they've all been narrative scripted, and so we're doing some stuff geared towards YouTube that's a little more hosted and not reality, but like hosted shows, non-scripted, non-fiction. And so branching out to do that, I'm going to produce those, probably not be directly involved in the creative, but being my own gatekeeper, so to speak. I mean, working with studios on some other projects, but having my own little maker studio.
So Anna, you go back to your hotel tonight and there's an envelope in it with $10 million. What do you do?
Oh, $10 million. bucks. Well, that's not very much money.
She's thinking big.
There's the difference. There's the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would, like, from the meta perspective, I think that really changing the perception so that digital is sort of the place to go, both from, you know, the content perspective and also the advertiser perspective. I think we're still having trouble breaking down the barriers of having advertisers think about the web and shift their dollars to the web, and they're just not there yet. And so I think in the next couple of years, it'll really be about breaking down those screens and, you know, and all of us creating content that jumps the boundaries and is so awesome that it doesn't, you know, it's what HBO did way back in the day, and it shows people that there's great content on digital. So I think for me, it would be to see that all happen and to see Yahoo be at the center of that and in the conversation. I think we've done a huge amount to change that perception and get us into the conversation with YouTube and Netflix and everybody else who's in this space, especially this week with the Hanks announcement. So it's really exciting. But that would be my dream.
Well, I hope some people go grab this video 2 years from now and in 2014 look back at what was going on in 2012 at the beginning of it, because I think that each of you have done a phenomenal job putting a lot of issues out on the table that are happening now. This is a great opportunity tonight to do something that us workaholics don't always do. So I can't wait to celebrate at the first ever IAWTV Awards. And I thank you all for coming in, for teeing up great questions too. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.